Today I'd like to discuss a topic that's very relevant to me as someone who trains on a regular basis who just so happens to be slightly older than the average gym goer. Now obviously I really enjoy training, so much so in fact I've made it my career. So all going well, I hope to continue training for many years to come. With the above said, I would do a lot of research into training advice and techniques for older lifters, and a pattern I've noticed is that by and large the people offering the advice come from a sports background. They've trained all their life, some to a high level. They have good genetics for strength training, and they continued on training into their adult life after their sports and athletics careers finished. Well, that's not my experience. I don't come from a sports background. I only got into weightlifting and weight training at an older age. So what I'd like to offer today is a slightly different perspective. Not necessarily a better perspective, but a different perspective on training that's working well for me and indeed is working well for the people I train. So although this advice is primarily aimed at older lifters, I think the concepts are pretty universal, so should work just as well for young people. So make sure not to switch off the video and keep watching. Okay, so let's get started, and in no particular order, I think we'll start with diet. As we get older, our muscles start to atrophy just a little bit more each year. Listened to a podcast last year by one of the research people at McMaster's University. They're doing a lot of research into the effects of protein on the human muscular system. I think it was Dr. Stu Phillips, who's internationally recognised in the field. And he said that as we get older, our sensitivity to muscle protein synthesis decreases. So if anything, an older lifter needs even more protein in their diet than a younger lifter. For me, I'd like to try and get 4 or 5 servings of protein per day if possible. I'd like to try and get my protein through real food sources rather than supplementation. But I do take a couple of supplements. I supplement my essential fats with an omega-3 fish oil supplement. I take 5 grams of creatine monohydrate. I'm trying to drink more water. I like to try and stay on top of my fibre and vitamin and mineral needs with 3 to 4 servings of fruit and vegetables per day. I don't always get that, but it's something I aim for. In terms of my sodium intake, if I'm eating out a lot, eating a lot of processed food, it's not something I need to look at. I'm probably getting too much sodium in my diet as it is. However, if I'm training well, sweating a lot, and I'm on top of my diet, no processed foods, I may need to salt a couple of my dishes. So I think that's enough on diet, and we'll move on to technique. It's a fact of life that as we get older, we become more susceptible to injury. How I like to try and avoid injury is by using warm-up sets to try and minimize the risk of injury. By taking my time to dial in my technique through lots of warm-up sets. I find warm-up sets are the best way for me to assess how my body is feeling on any particular day. They allow me to identify any possible niggles or tweaks that could potentially cause an issue later on in my training when I'm doing heavy working sets. They also help my peripheral nervous system to adapt and get ready and be focused for the heavy work ahead. I think the best piece of advice I ever heard online was by Jeremy Hamilton, who's a world record holding powerlifter, and he said that people think practice makes perfect. Wrong. Perfect practice makes perfect. This really struck a chord with me, and it made me think about my training and how I train, and I reassessed. And now basically, whether it's the bar or 95% of my 1 rep max, I try and make every set and every rep in that set look exactly the same from a technical point of view. Okay, leading on to from that, and we'll go on to the next point, and the next point is exercise choice and programming choices. Don't feel pressured into doing any particular workouts, any particular exercises. Do what works for you. Now, I do believe in the compound movements. They're central to my programming. Huge believer. I think they're the biggest bang for buck. So I bench I overhead press, I squat 3 times a week. However, I don't deadlift much, very seldom. Any deadlifting I do is just to keep some semblance of technique rather than being a central component of my training. I just find they hit my peripheral nervous system too hard, so they take me too long to recover from, so it's just not worth it for me. Now I do Romanian deadlifts once a week as an accessory exercise on one of my squat days, but I just don't find deadlifts worth it for me. Okay, this video has gone on longer than I had expected, so what I think I'm going to do is split it up into 2 parts. So this is now part 1. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please leave a comment and like the video, and I'll see you soon in part 2.